Hey everyone, I want to try something where I talk about Flora gameplay. Sometimes it'll be long, sometimes it'll be short, but today I have these weekly bossing VODs that I want to go over. So we'll start with my Adele VOD, which only has Lucid, Lotus, and Damien solos. My Arc and Illium only go up to normal Lotus and Damien because they're not too strong yet, but they're getting there. And I do the other big weeklies on my Adele with a group of friends, so those won't be in this video just because we didn't run them yet this week. But let's go ahead and jump in. Now, when I buff up for these bosses, I did Threads of Fate on my main for Tengu buff, free 20 attack that stacks with stuff. I then pop the rest of my buffs. I've got Guild Atmosphere, Green Pot, Red Pot from Monster Park, regular Boss Potion, I don't need the big one, and then just a 60 Strength pot. You get these candied apples from Showa for 10k each, which is just 7 stat, but everything adds up. Legion Attack and Ursus as well here. And then I pop Echo, which is exclusive spell for Adele here. I'm going ahead and using the event buff, which I think is 20 boss and IED and stat and attack. And then we use guild skills as well. Our guild has maxed out boss crit damage and damage percent. I forgot what that was until I brought the menu up there. And I'm just checking everything right now, making sure I've got everything looking all right. My IED and my boss and my strength are the 3 numbers I look at, I glance at, just to make sure everything is good to go before I jump into a boss. Make sure I have my toggles on. Got my Roar 3 on for bursting, and we are going to hop into Lucid. You can see my mouse cursor. I'm just double checking all the things went off. Because sometimes you double click a buff or a potion and the server lags and it just doesn't get used or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what ends up happening, but they get eaten sometimes. So Lucid I've been soloing for a few months, but I still die quite a bit sometimes. I still don't have the stupid monster collection on the mushrooms and the golems. So, also my bursting's all over the place. I use all of my buffs, and then I press all my buttons. And I think I do it well enough because I'm able to solo these bosses. I'm sure there's an optimal way to do these things. But I find that I at least buff up consistently. Like I press my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keys, and then Angelic Buster and Ring of Restraint. And then I start bursting, but then the rest of the buttons that I push sometimes are completely out of order, so I just need to maybe change my hotkeys to make it so it's just like, then you press A and D and S and F, like just a row of keys or something, instead of right now that I have it's kind of all over the place. I really like, I think it's called Feather Float, the key that's on my Z key on the bottom right. That is, whatchamacallit, it's like the backstep ability. It uses a little bit of your resource gauge, but it's like a little blink backwards, which is really handy for getting through the sickles. Man, I wish I had just like a teleport though. Teleport's really nice, but Illium's got it, so I at least play a class that has teleport. Teleport's good. Just bursting through these golems as fast as I can, and something that I'm also not very good at on Adele here, aside from just like a consistent burst skill order, is like keeping my resonance rush stacks up. Like there's a crystal right there on my left, but I'm not grabbing it, you know? It's like free final damage that I'm not just collecting, and I really should be doing that more often. I finally got it there. It's something you only have to do every like 40-ish seconds or so, maybe a little bit less than that depending on your buff duration that you've got. So I noticed the butterflies are starting to build up, so I'm like, oh well, I'll go ahead and cleanse them, sure. She's about to go enraged. I usually kill her without event buffs in about 2 bursts like I do here with my event buffs. So I just bursted her again in about 30 seconds to make things consistent. That teleport that she does here, I need to get better at noticing it. So what she does is she has this, not really rainbow orb, but it's got like colors on the edges. I just call it the white orb. When she's got the white orb on her hands, you can actually guard that with your, what used to be your iframe, I guess. So you don't get teleported into a golem like that. I need to get better at just really quickly pressing my guard button, because that can save you a life, especially because, well, they're fixing it to where she can't do it to you while the dragon is showing up, but until they do that, it's just a good habit to start getting into, especially because if you haven't cleared all of the golems out, you could still lose a life to getting intertangled with the golems there. I just took a lot of damage from getting crushed there. It just happens sometimes. I'm just too focused on something else going on. I think I was like starting to try to buff up to burst her out of phase 1, so I wasn't 100% paying attention to like where golems were falling. I usually try to just walk a lot, just stay mobile but not too mobile, because I don't want to jump directly under a golem. I just kind of want to move around in such a way that I'm not a sitting duck, basically. So we got her out of phase 1 pretty quickly here. 2 bursts is usually my average for it. Phase 2 is a lot easier for me, but I'll somehow die in it a lot more than phase 1. It's just a lot less stressful because you don't have to deal with the golems just Goomba stomping the shit out of your head. Yeah, so Sickle, I just get the fuck away from her. I probably played this a little bit way too safe, but I just, as soon as she starts the Sickle animation, I just run away. I just don't care. And I've been trying to be a little bit more aggressive, like when she uses the Dragon Flute. Like, I'll attack her a little bit more as opposed to just jumping straight up. So I do this in phase 1 and phase 2. I use the guard for bombs. So maybe that's part of why I keep forgetting to try to block the teleport in phase 1, because just subconsciously I'm just like, oh, I always use it for bombs, so I can't use it for anything else. But you get it every 30 seconds, so maybe I should play a little bit more loosey-goosey with it. So we don't have burst for another 90-ish seconds. I'm just gauging that based off of my infinity cooldown, which is on the C key on the bottom right there. It just ticked down to 58, 57 next to my bind. I try to make things organized on my skill keys so I can see what's up when, because Adele just has so many goddamn buttons you have to push to just stay on top of the boss. But I love it. It's so much fun. So she's doing sickles or something? No, she just put butterflies out. Nope, there was a sickle. When the dragon is happening, I have trouble determining if she's using sickles or planting more bullet hell butterflies. She apparently makes a noise when she uses sickles. She like does like a ha, like a laugh or something. I think the soul weapon of her also makes that sound, but I just never pay attention to it. I think because some of my own, like Adele's voice lines might sound very similar to it, so I'm just like, that's just me attacking, so I don't think that's her, but it's just not too big of a deal, but it'd be nice to min-max it one day. So we're finally bursting her. She just came out of laser, I believe. I already forgot what attack she just used. I try not to burst her unless she's already used one of her attacks where she becomes invulnerable, either the bad touch or the lasers. Just because Adele has, you know, you're bursting for at least 30 seconds because of your Infinity Blade, the background changing skill that's on right now. Making good use of that feather float, but also just falling perfectly through the cracks, so I can't use potions for a little bit since this is hard lucid. Yeah, she's using touch here. It must have been lasers. Yeah, so you can stand in the top left, you can stand in the top right, you can stand on the rightmost statue, you can stand right in the middle where I just was. There's plenty of safe spots from her touch attack. I just kind of chill out and just wait. Using another dragon here. The side the dragon's on doesn't matter. It's the fact that there's a dragon. There's me guarding the bomb again. I'll stand on those Illium portals that show up, just in case I mistime my iframe most of the time, because it does reduce the damage to like, what, 90% or something like that, instead of 100+% if you're not standing on it. Just in case you mistime it, you can save a life that way. I don't remember if your block damage reduces it enough to where you don't just flat out die. I don't remember. I'll have to experiment with that later. This is a good run so far, though. I only died in phase 1 so far. I think... Yeah, so I used my iframe there. I think there's another, like, very weird situation where I die in that corner. I was wondering if that was it. Oh, that was just me being way too close to her when she uses sickles. That's why I like to get the fuck away from her. Because if 2 of them clip you, you just die on hard mode. You can only tank 1 of them. They do so much damage. Just trying to optimize DPS while Dragon's out, since she's up at the top, thankfully, here. Yeah, Feather Float, Plummet, Resonance Rush, all those mobility skills are fun to use in this boss fight. Do I go up to the portal here? Yep, the Illium portal. Just in case you mistime it. She's using lasers. She's almost down to where she goes enraged. I honestly just turn my brain off in this fight at this point. So I usually have some silly deaths. Just because I'm so used to defeating her. So I'm just bursting her down to her last HP bar, but I think she uses a full map attack, so I can't use my full duration here. Oh, she used Dragon. Maybe that's what got me. Oh, nope, she used Touch. And then yeah, so she uses Touch. I'm like, oh, god damn it, I'll just stay down here. And then I fell off and couldn't use potions, and then a butterfly was just in my fucking face. So that was a silly death. I should have just jumped up to the top. It's much easier to dodge, like, butterfly bullets. I had plenty of time. I should have just done that. When she enrages, she supposedly uses more attacks, but I'm just so used to her at this point that again, it's just like, I'm gonna win, I just need to not get touched by the bad things. It saved me a couple of buff freezers a week if I paid, like, ultra attention, I guess. Lasers is really easy to dodge on Adele. You can just walk in a line, and if you run out of platforms, you can use that Feather Float, like, backdash ability, and it'll go through pretty much all the lasers if they're vertical anyway. Yeah, this is a fun thing you can do. So I was about to fall off here because she was using sickle. I was like, oh no, I'll flash jump away, and then I flash jumped like way too far, but there's a crystal here, so I didn't need to use Impale to generate a crystal, but I was just like, I don't want to be down here falling forever. So you can reposition yourself and catch yourself if you're falling with Resonance Rush. I mistimed my iframe. Great. I also don't boss on Adele really much anymore with Spirit of Freedom Link skill, so as soon as I spawn back in, you know, I'm ready to get taken damage. So I just min-max my damage percent with all of the Link skills now, since I'm not really needing the safety of Spirit of Freedom or Warrior Link skill or Shade Link or whatever at this point. So I'm just waiting for my cooldowns to come back for the last burst. I'm just getting her down to like 1% or so with regular attacks. I'm trying not to use the Rain of Destruction, like the orange swords. I'm trying not to Get her down too low because I don't want the ambient damage from any summoned swords I have out to accidentally push her before I'm ready to full burst her, although I don't think I need my full burst at this point to destroy her in phase 3. Yeah, so here I'm demonstrating. You can just stand right here without moving. You have to be on like the very edge of the platform. Also, you can see there's this sword that's like pulsating here. That's where she's gonna respawn. I think it's like the summoned swords trying to track where she is or something. I'm not sure what that indicator really is, if not just that, but it's really useful because I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll just stand here and prep my Noble Summons Ether Bloom combo on you with maybe some magic dispatches. Because sometimes with skill cooldown skip, you just get a ton of magic dispatches off, and it's great. Yeah, see, so I didn't time it perfectly there, but I was guarding, and I was on the portal, so I didn't die. I think after this laser is where I'm like, okay, it's go time, because I've got all of my cooldowns, except for my block, which don't really need that. For bursting her final phase, just need to get her down to 0. So here we go. I buffed up at the end of lasers. I used my roar. I used all my skills, Angelic Buster, and then I just start popping everything. I should probably use Green Shield more before doing all that stuff because she does hurt quite a bit here. I've come close to dying more times than I'd like to admit, if I'm being honest. So now she's healing, you just keep attacking her, and boom, I really quickly turn off all of my attacking skills so I don't accidentally blast open the music box, because they spawn you right next to it. It's a very small map, you have to be careful if you want to switch to drop gear here as an Adele. Or really as any class, because I think even the Saren skill will attack it. But anyway, I have like 360% drop with a Legion coupon on. I don't use a wealth pot typically unless I'm feeling spicy for the extra 20. And I got a Twilight Mark. I usually get nothing, so I was pretty excited that I got a Twilight Mark. Although, usually on the weeks that I get nothing, I'll get like a Lucid Bed, and then I'll just go troll one of my guildmates who's been looking for a Lucid Bed, and I'll drop it in front of him because I'm an asshole. But it's all in good fun. So I switched off my Ring of Restraint for Lotus. I just don't use it in Lotus and Damien. Lotus especially, because there's just so much shit in hard mode that falls from the ceiling that a lot of the time when I'm bursting, I just need to move. And a lot of times that means I'm moving out of the field. So I decide, oh, I'll just go ahead and re-up my potions here because I'll need it for Damien anyway. Just red and green pot and the atmospherics, really, and a Legion buff. So phase 1 is not a big deal because of how strong I am at this point. I just put my mark on it to make sure it takes more damage, and then I use my big purple sword and my orange sword field, and just use the basic Noble Summon Ether Bloom combo with Cleave, and eventually he dies. Don't need to do anything crazy. You can feather float through the laser, which is really nice, if you missed that. Yeah, so feather float through the laser just to cheese it so you don't have to go clockwise around the map. It's a lot more stressful on classes that can't just blink through the laser like that. Just a little quick tip there. Now, I try to save my burst in phase 2 Lotus. When I was liberating, I'm not fully liberated yet, I'm like halfway. My Lotus solo is the last one that I did, actually. But when I did the liberation quest, I bursted phase 2 and it didn't die. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Normally, I don't burst and he dies pretty quick. So I was feeling that minus 20%. But I save it because phase 3 sucks. And I usually kill phase 2 in less than 3 minutes. So I just want all my skills up so I can make phase 3 shorter. Even if it makes phase 2 a little bit suboptimal. That's just kind of how I've gotten used to doing Lotus. I died in a stupid way earlier. I was just in the corner and got stun locked. I shouldn't have been in the corner like that. But they give you 5 lives for a reason, you know, you're gonna have some silly mistakes, that's all good. But I just stay way the fuck away from him, and I just attack him from a distance with Cleave, and I attack him from a distance with the orange field, and when he uses the platforms, I'll usually, I say, I'll jump up and just hold blink, or Adele has that skill where you can float in the air for a couple seconds too. That blocks his super knockback. I don't know why I just decided, to use Impenetrable Skim there. I really didn't need to. I kind of wasted it. It's really useful in phase 3 when you're just needing to burst him for like 30 seconds straight. But he's down. He tried to use platforms yet again. Kind of some bad RNG, but it's all good. And I hate bursting Lotus before he does a purple ball attack, but I decided, okay, I'll just bind him and burst him immediately here. Like, if he uses his FMA where I can't hit him, whatever, my burst is partially wasted. Luckily, I don't think he used it here. But maybe I should start bursting phase 2, actually, and then just wait for him to use... Oh yeah, this was a very, very close guard. Yeah, you see Demolisher spawning in, get pushed back, stun from the debris. Barely guarded that in time. So yeah, so I'm using the float abilities that Adele has and then blink to just cheese the laser here. Yeah, I should probably just burst phase 2 and then wait to burst phase 3 until my cooldowns are back, because he's going to use purple balls at some point anyway. That at least make it more consistent, as much as I hate phase 3. I might start doing that now, actually. A little bit of a knockback assist there to help me dodge the Demolisher that was spawning in. You used to be able to just pop Green Shield and tank the Demolishers. I think you still can, but you don't get as much shield HP, so it's a little bit harder to set up. Since they do 100% damage, they don't do like one-hit KO amounts of damage or whatever. You can technically get enough shield HP to tank a Demolisher, which is kind of cool. But if I'm in a bad position, I'll just block it, so I don't block any other attacks other than the Demolishers in this room. Or if I'm like low HP and I need to block other debris, I'll block other debris until a potion comes back off cooldown. So I'm like, I think I'm safe, and then it like shreds my asshole a little bit, and I get the fuck out of that corner. Sometimes he puts a lot of Demolishers out, sometimes he doesn't. It's just the way he goes. It's just the way he goes. Yeah, this is the purple ball attack. He can, like, break out of my bind. Yeah, I got stunned by debris. I wasn't paying attention. So, purple ball, yay. I have my iframe up and everything. I keep calling it a fucking iframe. It's just a guard now. Either way, I didn't push it. I think I was actually legitimately stalling for my burst so I could just burst him down here. Because you're dead for 30 plus 35 seconds, so if you got burst coming up, take advantage of it. Waste your buff time a little bit, but I got nowhere to be, so... So we're binding, we're bursting. He used purple balls recently, so I'm not too afraid of him popping out of my bind and wasting my burst by doing it again. I'm like, oh shit, there's a Demolisher right there. So I popped Impenetrable Skin. I didn't want to get pushed away. Impenetrable Skin is super clutch in this fight. I love it. I've been getting more and more used to it and just becoming such a big fan of it. I used to never push it. So I'm just really quickly trying to switch to my large drop familiar again, because we want to get drops. We never get drops. And I was like, oh shit, my skills are on, because I didn't turn them off. Yeah, I need some 2-line drop gear at this point if I want to max out. But, don't have any 2-liners. Don't have any 2-liners. And I have a little bit less drop right here because I'm not in Arcane River, because Monster Life gives you a little bit. This was a really good, like, amount of drops. I got an Eternal Flame, and I got an Incredible Chaos Scroll. Usually I get just straight up dick from Lotus, and he's like, fuck you. And I'm like, alright, fuck you too, and we peace out. I do wish the furniture was tradable, because then I could either sell it or just give it to friends who really want the furniture. Because I've gotten duplicates of Lotus's furniture. I don't think Damien's furniture I've got 2 of yet. I did get 1 though. Just again, making sure all my stats look good. Got plenty of potion time. I don't need to re-potion since Lotus only took about 8 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes, including getting the drops. Damien is just kind of a chore, but I messed up my burst, my first burst anyway here. So I went in without it, which is fine. You know, it's Damien, like, what's he gonna do? He's gonna, like, kill you by giving you 7 marks, is how you'll probably die most of the time in Damien, because you can't cleanse, because John McFucksword is just all up in your face. I got DDR'd jumping away from the one shot there. Now I'm just waiting because I saw him diving. And at this point I'm like, I have most of my cooldowns. Oh, maybe I'll start buffing up soon. Maybe I'll burst him. He surely wouldn't use Cheetos when I'm buffing up and trying to burst him soon. So I bound him out of the air. So no, it wasn't here. It must have been somewhere else where I was messed up my bind. But to make a long story short, I usually buff up, start bursting, and if he goes into Cheeto's animation, I bind him because that knocks him down. Thankfully, Adele's bind is very big and airborne, so this way you don't have to constantly up jump and get a suboptimal burst off. You just start bursting. If he goes airborne and starts using Cheetos, whatever. Just bring him back down with you. So I think I bursted him again. Usually it takes me 2 bursts for phase 1. He's a beefy boy. So again, just using Adele's like standing midair ability to attack him. If a Cheeto is falling underneath me, I will either block it on the way down, or I'll just use Feather Float to go backwards and be safe. I think I got this cleanse off, yeah, because I was like, well, I'm halfway. That means if I don't get it now, I'm probably never going to get it, because of the sword. But he was behaving pretty well in this run. This is where I was like, I'm just gonna jump through your sword. Yeah, Damien's a little bit dull. There's just a lot of waiting. Something I would love to see with Damien is just, it's the smallest change ever, but it would make him such a more interactive fight, is when he's using Cheetos, have him be on the ground instead of in the air. That way you can dance between the Cheetos and still DPS him, and that way it's more fun, I think. Instead of just like, oh, I'll up jump a few times, or I'll just back all the way away, depending on my class, until he comes back down, you know? I think that'd be way more fun if they just had him on the ground while he was doing that. Like, same exact attack, just able to hit him more. Otherwise, I don't really mind how mobile he is and how much he gets around. Cheetos is just a huge, like, adrenaline block. Do I really burst him for 10%? I might have saved my burst. I did this, like, a day or two ago, so because my memory is so shitty, I just don't remember exactly what happened here. Yeah, so I was like, there's a bunch of Cheetos here. I'm probably fucked unless I do something. Really easy to guard that attack once you get used to the timing of it. So I see I have 4 stacks. I see there's a sword. I'm like, maybe I can stand on the edge. Maybe I can get a cleanse off. I get it off. I get it off. I've been having, like, really messy Damien fights lately, so I was really proud of this phase 1, just, like, not dying to stupid bullshit. Accidentally took a flame burst from the sword AoE there. I was just trying to get on the other side of it faster. Yeah, I did totally save my burst, huh? Good job, Lane. So we phased him. They changed it so he phases at around 30-ish% now. It used to be like 33-ish. I don't know why they made that change, but makes phase 2 shorter, so whatever. Got 3 marks, but I'm like, let's burst him while there's only 1 ball out. And, oh, this is where I messed up, yeah, because I shouldn't have bound him until he went into fucking Cheetos. So now I'm, like, suboptimally, like, bursting, like, and attacking him as much as I can. Like, some of my attacks are doing no damage because I'm falling down into the ball while they come off. It's just a mess. 90% DR, dude. Never again. I need to just hold my bind more in Damien. I was like, oh, he's doing Omni Slash. I'll go ahead and cleanse my marks. I was like, oh shit, I'm fucking dead. But I somehow DDR'd really fast and saved my life there. That was pretty bad. It's so terrifying when he uses that flame tornado, because sometimes you're just like right on top of him. I've within the past couple months gotten more and more used to when he dashes just ducking, because you can dodge it that way. I think you can jump over it too, but ducking is like a guarantee, whereas jumping I think you have to get a certain height. Yeah, there it is again. I failed DDR, he used Flame Twister on me. Nothing I could really do about that, I guess, other than not stand underneath a DDR. This FMA, I have my orange swords on the left, so he breaks out of his thing while the FMA is still happening. Which can be kind of bullshit, because you'll still be petrified, and he'll be like, just ramming into you and stuff, or doing Cheetos on top of you, and you're just like, please, fuck, I just don't want to be here anymore. Yeah, he tornadoed me quite a bit, huh, on this run. I think I saw he was at like 4% and I got greedy. I was like, oh, I don't need to cleanse. No, yes you do. You just spawned a sword, you moron. So I should have cleansed. Oh well. So I had one stupid death and one death where I'm like, whatever. So Damien wasn't too bad. Yeah, I mean, he's just so tanky to me still, so I absolutely shouldn't have greeded. I greed so much sometimes. I'm just like, oh, he's like almost there. I can do it, and then I don't do it, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not strong enough. I think at this point I was also getting impatient, and I was just like, please, for the love of God, just let me like burst you and kill you. Because he's at 2%, he's at 2%, and then I just keep on, like, cascading deaths. There's just tons of my bodies everywhere now. So this could have been a 1-death fight, but, you know, a win is a win. I think the Liberation quest, you get 5 lives instead of 10, so, like, Wood is still liberated, whatever. And then that's kind of the end of my Adele bossing segment here. I did not get anything too good so far, other than that Twilight mark. I guess the Flame and the Icog, so we're hoping for something big from Damien. And it's nothing. A couple of EXP coupons for my jet that I've been trying to get to 250. Fuck you, Nexon, by the way. And yep, so that's my Adele weekly bosses. I'll probably post some version of the other weeklies that I end up doing, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to get to them because I've got something going on this weekend, so I might not boss with my buddies. But this is Arc, 21k strength approximately. Lots of boss damage, lots of ignore defense, but not the biggest range in the world, just because the weapon secondary emblem aren't super fantastic at the moment, but they get the job done. Transferred my pets over. I only really use Ursus, Guild, and Red Pot, Green Pot on my Arc. I also only really use those on my Illium. I might be able to do Easy Lucid at this point, but I just haven't wanted to try for a while. Yeah, I died right away. How did I die there again? I really wanted to look at that on this video, because I was getting Arc's stat buffs for using its charge attacks, and I get stunned while I'm jumping, so my momentum kept into the laser. Okay. Sometimes shit just happens. Whatever. I think I forgot to put all cure pots on, which I actually find very useful on my Arc and my Illium, because one of the flying robots in this room skill locks you, and I rely very heavily on Arc's ability to jump and use its dash attack through the lasers, so that I don't have to worry about doing a clockwise or counterclockwise rotation on this map. I can just cheese it, because when you're airborne, it's a blink. When you're not airborne, it is not a blink. It has to be airborne. Learned that the hard way. But yeah, I use quite a bit of my burst to get out of phase 1. And then phase 2 on my Arc. At this point, I've basically won the fight, because when Arc is super transformed, it has super knockback resist, so you can just stand on the platforms and just keep attacking with reckless abandon, because there's no chance you're going to get knocked off, and if there's weird debris patterns, you have 2 iframes, so it's like, whatever. Although technically your 2 iframes also do a lot of damage, so maybe you shouldn't hoard them like I do. But I play safe. I just make sure I get the job done. This was like hard Lotus levels of debris right there. Like 5 huge chunks. So I forget if my ping was good or bad. You kind of want a little bit worse ping on Arc when you have attack speed 0, which I think I have right now, because there might be one more level of attack speed, but I have trouble skill comboing a lot of the time, which is where you use your basic charge drive and then you use your abyssal charges, like the stat buff giving skills. Sometimes I just can't do it because I have like 0 ping or something, and there's like no frames of availability for me to be able to get those skills off in between all of my basic attacks. Same thing when I'm transformed, I'm just like, sometimes I just can't do it. But I think in the latest patch notes that got posted, they're actually making it so they're making it easier for you to do those combos, so I was like, oh good. Yeah, and this is exactly why I don't like pre-buff anymore for Phase 3 Lotus. Because sometimes he just goes right into purple balls, and then it's like, oh, my buffs, my burst, no. So yeah. So I bind him, I use all of my burst skills. I think I even popped my iframe on him because it does a lot of damage. Accidentally opened up my friend list because I'm pushing all my buttons, and that's just one that got in the way. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Super knockback. Lotus, not even a problem. You just stand in front of his face. You dodge the debris when you need to. You can kind of weave on either side of him with your multiple dash skills that you have while you're transformed, but I guess it's better to animation cancel them. I don't know. A lot of the time I just don't even do it because I forget to do it, or because I'm like, I don't know if my ping is weird and I'm gonna like jump into a demolisher, because if it doesn't chain I will jump into a demolisher. So he's almost dead. He's like a 5-minute ordeal like Damien is on my arc here. Really quickly, just switching to my drop familiar loadout. I never got a large drop familiar on my arc or my Illium. I just have a normal drop one. My arc's familiars are just incredibly bad, for lack of better words. There's like one 30% IED, one with, what, 5% attack, which is not bad, and then a 15% IED one. I have no boss damage. It's just very, very tragic when I was leveling up my arc that I didn't get too much out of the familiars that I was grinding up while leveling with Frenzy. It'd be something to go back to if I ever got super into playing Arc again and wanted to do progression on it, but I think I'd want to do Illium first. But anyway, here's Damien. We'll talk about Illium later. Damien on Arc is pretty... How do I want to say this? It's weird because your damage is like all in that skills that just like comes up from the ground and chomps the target, and sometimes with bosses like Damien he just blinks out of the way before that happens. Yeah, this is a fun thing to do to make that a little bit more interactive. You use your skill on Arc that gives you infinite transform meter for a number of seconds, and you can hit him the entire time pretty much he's doing Cheetos. Otherwise it's just a lot of like, he's a fucking sponge and you gotta get through this one way or another. I don't really have any Arc trips otherwise. This is me just suffering because Arc has no range unless you're transformed. My meter is nearly depleted, so I'm like, alright, I'll try to refresh it a bit. Just attack him outside of transform here. I think I used my charge drives a little bit too much. The buffs last over a minute. I can probably get away with not using them as much, but I mean it's free damage if you're able to use them and like animation cancel them. I think at some point in this fight I noticed like, oh, I can't do it anymore, whereas I was doing it fine in Lotus. It's like really weird how sometimes you just can and can't. And I'll like mash the shit out of the button, so like there must be like a frame sometimes that I can push it and I just don't hit it. Or I'm just not good at Arc. Probably just more so chalk it up to user error, but it feels like bullshit sometimes, so I feel like I have to call it what it is. This is why we suffer on Arc. Oh no, because I got my skill that lets me just instantly phase him because he was low HP. I was like, ha ha ha, I got this, this cleanse off before he phase changed, even though I only had 2 marks. Oh, I guess for phase 2, like when he uses the screen tear full map attack, where you get petrified. So he has an animation for when Damien is about to do that. Like, if you have your outline turned on, which is why the boss has like that weird rainbow outline on, super fucking handy, by the way. I hated it at first, but it's super fucking handy for seeing what the boss is doing at all times. He like disappears while he is, you can see his outline still. Maybe he'll do it and I'll pause it and show you, but I don't remember if he did on this run. But you can hold an iframe or your like your transform infinite meter skill, and you'll not get petrified, and it's a huge help. It's a huge like time save in like just you can go instantly back to damaging him. Unfortunately, Adele cannot block it anymore because you can't fucking do a true iframe. Not salty about that. Yeah, so I'm just bursting. I'm like, please God, do not leave my burst until it actually fully goes off, because Arc's bind is so fucking weird. And when I do Akechi, I'll show you. Okay, so he didn't do the full map attack because I killed him too fast, but little tip there to keep DPSing him and just kind of cancel out of it. Just use the iframe if you recognize he's about to go into it. The timing is like you have like half a second, so you gotta be pretty quick. And because it's normal Damien, I'm just here for the boss crystals and the bonus cubes. I've been hoarding the bonus cubes for the update where you can reroll epic potentials with them. I think they're like 4 or 5 mil each in Barra right now. Something like that. Yeah, so I do Akechi, and Phase 2 we'll see something really fun with how this boss works and how Arc's bind interacts with it. But Phase 1 is just, you're a meatball and you transform so he can't knock you away because he has so many knockbacks. Yeah, so I'm just getting my charge drive skills back up, and then I super transform. He can't knock me away. The idea of this fight is you need to do enough damage to him so he doesn't bind you and like debuff you when his like little challenge or whatever is over. So normally that's not a problem unless your character just doesn't do enough damage, which my characters used to not do enough damage. But Arc's bind is really fucked up, and they are changing it. At some point, they are changing it. Arc's bind freezes the HP bar of the target that you use it on. So once the bind animation is done after 10 seconds or whatever, then the HP bar will actually move. So I forget this, like the dumbass I am, and I bind him early. I'm like, oh fuck, why'd I do that? Because this technically counts as me doing 0 damage to him during his challenge. So I'm actually gonna get debuffed, which is a hot load of horse shit. So see, that was the animation. I got bound, and I died because I failed his challenge or whatever, and it was just, it was really fucking stupid. And then he, of course, because that interaction occurred, now he is just using damage reflect for ages, and I can't damage him because I used my one skill to try to burst him that gets through it. So this was just, I need to just activate my brain when I go into Akechi as my Arc again. It's so easily avoidable, and they are changing Arc's bind, to be fair, to where it doesn't freeze the damage anymore. I just think it's a really goofy interaction. Arc's Bind, however, is really useful when you're grinding because it's just a huge AoE field for like 10 seconds. So you can go loot the map or just put it down and just rest your hands for 10 seconds. At this point, I was like, ah, fuck, I have like no buff freezers, so I go buy a couple more. And I jump into the rest of my bosses. But there's nothing really too much to talk about for like Chaos Sakon and Hard Magnus or whatever on my arc. Maybe Princess No? Oh yeah, Princess No. Let's try to find Princess No. Oh yeah, Pink Bean is great. You just push your Super Transform AoE button and all the statues die and it's great. Ah, Princess No. I have a Ring of Reflection on all of my characters I do this boss on because of this stupid fucking whale. I hate this whale with a passion. So I'm like, okay, my bullets went off, whatever, I need to wait. Activate Reflective Ring, stand on top of the whale, boom. Dead in 2 shots. That's with a Ring of Reflection 1. You don't need a Ring of Reflection level 2, 3, or 4. 1 does it just fine. This room is very loud. But I also don't know how to clear it very quickly. So I'm wondering if anyone has any suggestions other than like what I do, which is I super transform, I blow burst skills on it when I've got them, I use my AoE bind to just constantly tick the 10s on these enemies. You know, I used all of my burst buffs to get more bullets out. I even use like the big chomp skill because he does a lot of lines and I just want to get out of here quickly. But this room is absolute suffering. I figured out how to do it fast on Adele because Adele has like a ton of buttons to push, but I just don't get how to do it quickly on Arc or Illium. We'll get to Illium in a bit. So if anyone has suggestions, let me know on how the fuck to do this faster. Because Princess No room number 2 is just... all that time I'm saving from killing the whale fast is just sunk into this room. Oh yeah, and if you have any tips for room number 3, also let me know, because I have no idea how to, like, do this room quickly. I kill all the eels and then I'm just sitting there, like, twiddling my thumbs for the better part of a minute or two because nothing happens. What I want to try is exit the portal and come back in because this boss dungeon is just really weird like that. So I wonder if that triggers him to come down faster. I haven't tried it yet, but this room is bullshit and it sucks, but that's pretty much the rest of what I wanted to talk about on Arc. Just like doing a rage dance over there. And then we do Illium. So my Illium is about the same stat as my Arc, but is way stronger despite having less IED. Everything else is very similar. This class... oh, sorry, it had less IED because I had the wrong familiars out. It probably has, like, the same IED. But it's, like, the same everything, but Illium just shits out damage. And I love teleport, and I love the skill that enhances the teleport range because it makes getting through these lasers so much faster. I may have remembered to put all cure pots on for these robots this time. I also have them on for Chaos Pink Beam because he skill locks you and does a bunch of dumb bullshit too. But yeah, Illium, I like Illium a lot. I would progress on my Illium before my Arc, once I finish my Adele up a little bit more. He changed directions of the laser because I was taking too long. I'll take a direction change, but if he speeds it up, it just feels so bad. So at this point, I'm like, oh, you're gonna use platforms? I'll just be an Illium. And this is part of why I love Illium. You just ignore everything that a boss is doing for your burst. Because the bullets home in. Yeah, flying's really handy for the platform's attack. Makes it super easy to just dodge out of the way of his knockback. You also have 2 iframes that are pretty long on Illium as well. Adele got shafted. Adele has no true iframe. I know it used to, but it was like hokey how it worked anyway. You didn't just push a button and become immortal. You had to time something. So I buffed up and he went into purple, but at least I saved Grandest Blessing, so I didn't use that yet. And then I just was an Illium at him. It really makes me want to get better gear on my Illium, to do more bosses on it, because you just ignore bosses. You just ignore them. You can attack them from so far away if you daisy chain your like extra crystals. I know that's like a DPS loss or whatever a lot of the time, but I mean, optimally, yeah, you want you and your crystal to sandwich the boss, but like you can play so safe, and I love it. And teleport also just is so nice to boss with, because he uses his knockback. Oh, I'll just teleport away, or I'll teleport behind you. Nothing personnel. But yeah, Lotus and Damien and all them, less of an ordeal on my Illium than my Arc. It just shits out damage. It just shits out damage. Why don't people play this class more than they do? Illium is really strong. Got more nothing because we're just doing normal mode for the boss crystal and the bonus cubes. Sometimes bonus EXP tickets are nice. Sometimes you get those. Sometimes you get sparkling red star potions. Those sell for like 20 mil or something too. Yeah, so I do this before I enter bosses on my Illium. I charge my crystal all the way. And fucking mana overload, dude. It just drains Illium's mana completely. It's so bad. If you push your like laser attack, it'll just drain it unless you have the skill out that recovers your MP every second. So Illium has no true bind, so you have to take the Urda bind, which I can't remember if you can use it midair or not. I never really remember to try it because I just fly when Damien does Cheetos. Yeah, this laser attack that I just kind of did and messed up a bit just drains your MP. But for the most part, you don't really have to worry about MP on Illium. Like, I've run into trouble a couple of times, but it's very, very infrequent. They are nerfing its mana recovery, so I wonder if that'll affect it at all. But yeah, this is just being an Illium, that Damien. He flies up to use Cheetos, you're like, that's cool. Why don't I join you? And, oh, you're gonna do it again before I was able to attack my crystal enough to charge it up? I'll just push my button that gives me a full charge, like this, and I'll go up there and hang out with you again, and just knock you into phase 2 because this burst does so much damage. Now, I used to have the inner ability for cooldown skip. I don't know why I rerolled off of it, but cooldown skip gives you the extra chance at full charging, that skill that full charges your crystal, which is just awesome. And I might re-roll just to get that back, because I really like that style of gameplay. Oh yeah, that was me just charging the crystal between phases. I try to charge the crystal between phases when bosses are like, I'm dying, but wait, there's a new phase. Just to get a little bit more meter, because it can take a while to get your burst back. Illium is just such a nice lazy bosser. You just hit your crystal when you can't interact with Damien because you're out of flight skills. I think I was like, I need to use a potion for mana, so I need to get away from the blue orb because the blue orb reduces potion recovery. What I need to do more on my Illium when he does fireballs is just fly through them, because you can just do that. I don't know why I ran away. I need to play more in his face on Illium, I think. Especially since you have 2 long-ass iframes. Yeah, I was like, wait, I can just fly. So I almost have a burst ready. I think I didn't realize that. And then we just wait for Cheetos to use it on him. Or you can bind him and just do this, I guess. That's cool too. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I like never bind Damien. Yeah, and then he used Cheetos, and then your flight's gonna run out in the middle of Cheetos. Oh, thankfully he at least died, so I didn't have to worry about it. But that's Lomian on my Illium. I do want to do Akechi and Princess No, but everything else is kind of like whatever, since this character kind of one-shots everything else. So I'll skip that part in the video. We're already going pretty long anyway. Wanted to try a longer form video just to see what would happen. I think it also helps me to just talk out like, oh yeah, this is what I was doing here and I should do this differently so I do better or die less. But I'm just not used to talking for like an hour straight, so my voice is just going kaput. Yeah, Illium teleport is really nice. He gets close to you to try to knock you away, and you just really quickly teleport backwards. So he like never touches you. It's really nice. Same thing in phase 2 pretty much. I think I did use my iframe in phase 2 because I was like, oh shit, why am I on this side of him when he was using his one shot? Yep, using my laser to burst him. He knocked me up and I was like, oh shit. Nope, that wasn't it. Yeah, I teleported backwards and was like, oh, I need to press my iframe. I should have pressed the shorter cooldown one instead of the longer cooldown one. And since we already have our drop familiar out and our legion drop, we are just going through the motions at this point. I do want to show that Akechi room. I do Gollux first for some reason. Gollux on Illium is just so easy. You just fly and he dies. Yeah, here we go. This fucking room right here. I have no idea how to do this fast on Illium. My Crystal Gate was just coming off cooldown, or I had pressed that when I went in, because it does give you a little bit more damage in terms of like AoE for mobs on the map. I just popped it right there to get the buff, but any tips would be appreciated for how the fuck to do this room faster on Illium. It's just, it's so mind-numbing. There's gotta be something better I can do in this room. Like, I'm sure it's the case that maybe some classes just suffer in this room, but maybe there's like a second or third job skill I'm not using on Illium. I don't know. I guess I could check after I'm done recording this, but yeah, that's kind of how I do it. I just keep buffing myself with the Crystal Gate to get the bombardment happening, but it still feels like such bullshit. And I clear this room so slowly. But otherwise, don't really have much of an issue with Princess No. It's always the second room. But that's really about it. This room can take a little bit of time just because of how bounces work with your crystals and how AoEs trigger, but yeah, that's sort of it. I don't have much else to talk about here, I guess, so thanks for watching if you watched the whole thing, or if you're doing a too long didn't watch and you skipped ahead to this point. Yeah, so bossing is good, and you should do it. No, but seriously. Flora classes are really fun. More people should play them, I think. That's my whole pitch. It's pretty weak, but just trust me on it. They have a shared cash shop. Collie's coming out. You'll have 4 characters with a shared cash shop. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. You should play them. But no. Yeah, once my Adele is more further along, I'll gear up my Illium more. My arc will be last. I don't know how Collie will be. Maybe my Collie will be second. Maybe I'll like Collie more than Illium. Haven't played it yet. Don't know. But pretty excited for that patch coming up next month. I believe it's next month anyway. And, yeah. I'll see you guys in the next Flora-related video. Thanks for hanging out, and enjoy the rest of your day. Get that meso. Peace out.